Hey guys, thank you for joining me on our second technical session of Let's Build It Together. So I'm going to start this session by reviewing what we did in our last technical session. So we did two things. We created a management VLAN with an IP address for the switch that Juniper calls in-band management, and we also configured the management ports at the back of the device for out-of-band management. So I do need to make one change though. I made a typo when I was entering the commands in our earlier session. So I actually need to change the IP address from 11 to 1, and I need to add a subnet mask because we need more than one IP existing in that range. By default, Juniper sets to /32, which means the IP that I set would be the only IP that would exist. And we need an entire pool for management because we're not going to have just the single switch. We're going to have a firewall, and we're going to have the wireless controllers and all those different devices. So we need to be able to have multiple IPs in that range. So when I log into the switch, I will make that change, and then we can move forward. So in our session today, we are going to discuss the VLAN design and configure the VLANs on the switch. So in my diagram, we have 6 VLANs that I'm going to create. Now, a VLAN is basically a broadcast domain. And because, for example, voice traffic is latency sensitive, we need to make sure that all that traffic is contained and it's separate from the data traffic and the Wi-Fi traffic that's also broadcast sensitive. Now, the purpose of the VLAN, what a VLAN is essentially, it's a logical separation. So if we want to group users or have certain users accessing certain resources, we can do that using VLANs. So I'm going to log into the switch, and I'm going to adjust my IP address on the management VLAN, and we're going to start configuring these VLANs. So let's do it. So I will log in using the IP that we would have changed on the switch yesterday. So I'm going to log in as root. Like I said, I have my username and password set. You can create additional accounts. So outside of root, you can create as many admin accounts as you like with different user privileges. So let's just get in. Now, remember that the first thing you need to do, you would enter the shell of the switch. So you need to type CLI. And when you get into root, you can make changes with the greater than sign. That's operational mode, as Juniper calls it, which means you can only run show commands. So we don't want to see any show commands. We just want to make changes to the existing configuration. So we go edit or configure to enter the configuration. So I'm going to split my screen, and we will start by making a change. /24. So I'm going to do a show compare, and you are going to see the change. Now, the thing is, you can have multiple IPs on it. So you will be able to access it via multiple, but it may cause an error because the device that you are logging into or trying to get to might get confused, for lack of a better term. So what we need to do is actually remove the other IP, which is the 11/32. So I'm using shortcuts. So when you're at the end of a line, you can do Control-A to get to the top. And I just use the arrow to go to the front of the word, and then I would do Control-W. That would delete the word. So I'm just going to delete that command. And now if I do a show compare, you're going to see that one address was minus and one was plus. So I really like this feature with Juniper. I'm not sure. I don't think any of the other manufacturers have this. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's really cool. So I'm not going to commit this change yet. What we are going to do is start creating VLANs. So I will type out the commands for the first one, maybe the first two, and then I'll copy and paste like what I did in our last session. So set VLANs. And again, you have a question mark. As you can see, the question mark would have brought up the last VLAN that we would have created, which is the net management. So the VLAN name, the first VLAN we're going to create is access. This VLAN, I spelled access wrong. This VLAN is the VLAN that will be terminating the firewall. So this would handle the connection between the switch and the firewall for internet access. So the VLAN ID for this, I believe, is 10. Yeah. And we are going to set the description. as VLAN terminating firewall. Now, we aren't going to set any IP addresses or any layer 3 interfaces on these VLANs. Right now, we're just going to focus on the layer 2, which is creating the VLANs and assigning the ports. So I'm going to scroll down to the part of the script that says creating VLANs. Let me just create some space here. So we'll have some separation in terms of what we are going to do today. Right, so that's VLAN 10. So if you want to see, as we go along, we can show compare, or you can also commit check. Like I said in our last session, the commit check would check the configuration, make sure there aren't any errors, and it would let you know where the error is. So my configuration check succeeds. So what we can do is we can copy this, okay, copy this and paste it in, enter. So if I do a show type compare, you would see all of the changes that I just made. So you can see that I added the access VLAN, a pop Wi-Fi VLAN, a guest Wi-Fi VLAN, user, and voice, each with its separate VLAN ID. Now let me show you what the Juniper switch would do if there's an error. So set VLANs test, we'll call it test, VLAN ID, say we use 10. And if we do a commit check, it will show an error. So the Juniper switch would never allow you to just set the configuration if it's wrong. So you see they say tag value 10 is being used by more than one VLAN, and it tells you the 2 VLANs that is tied to 10. So obviously that was just a test to show you that the Juniper switch would not let you commit something that's wrong. So now if I do a commit check, it should check out fine, because it'll make sure it'll check each parameter that I entered against the configuration. Right, commit check succeeds. So the next thing we're going to do is assign these VLANs to ports. Now in our next session, what we're going to do is we're actually going to create the layer 3 interfaces so that we could test. So for right now, it's not gonna, we're not gonna do any testing until the next session. So to set a VLAN onto a port, you do set interfaces. Like I said before, Juniper starts at 0. So you can actually type unit 0 or GE0/0/0.0. It's just a shortened version. So if you see that anywhere, it's just a shortened version of the same command. Family Ethernet switching. Now, Ethernet switching is always used for layer 2. If we need to set an IP address, it would be family INET. So Juniper kind of creates different hierarchies for different configurations. So if you're in the wrong thing, it wouldn't work. So VLAN members, and the question mark would show you the VLANs that were already committed. Because the 4 or 5 VLANs we just created weren't committed as yet, it wouldn't show up. So to do this, we would actually have to type out the name access. I keep spelling access wrong. All right. So what we're going to do, I am going to copy and paste the rest, because I am going to have to type out the names individually. So let's send this in. Right. Now, it should be noted that these ports are all access ports, which means these ports are configured for a laptop or a phone or another user device to be plugged into. Trunk ports, I would show you all that later down. Trunk ports are used, for example, if you need to create an uplink between 2 switches, or for the access point, we will use trunk ports for that purpose. So for now, let's just commit check. So let's see. So it gave an error. So it's saying that the access interface, like I was just saying, an access is supposed to have 1 VLAN assignment. A trunk port could have multiple. So it's saying the access interface port 1 has more than one VLANs in it. So what we can do is edit interfaces GE001.0. Let's see what it says. Sure. So you see, because it's an access port, you can't have two VLANs. Two VLANs right now is default and voice. So we need to take out the default VLAN, which is VLAN 1, from the port. So to do this, it's simple. You type delete, and because I went under the interface, you can actually see over here the hierarchy that we need to follow. So it'll be delete, family, Ethernet switching, VLAN members, default. And top would take you back to the top of the configuration, and let's do a commit check. Now the thing is, yes, the thing is, if the error is under more than one port, you wouldn't be able to know until you do a commit check. So now we actually need to go into the other port, which is port 2. Delete into, nope, wrong command. Delete family, Ethernet switching, VLAN members, default. Top. So let's show. The show should show us, right. So as you can see on port 3, port 4, on port 3 and port 4, we actually have the default VLAN plus the VLAN that I just set. So we need to delete it from port 3 and port 4 as well. So I'm just going to use my up arrow to make this a little faster. We'll do it from port 3, delete, family, Ethernet switching, VLAN members, default. And we could actually type up as well just to go up one level. From here will be edit GE 00, the next port would be 4.0, and we're here. So if we show again, we would see that there are two VLANs on an access port. So we need to delete family, Ethernet switching, VLAN members, default. So let's hope that's all the changes. So now we do our commit check again, and let's see if it checks out fine. Just give it a little while. Good. So now, if we do a show compare, we would see every single change that I just made. So we'll start at the top and we'll go over it. So from the top, we edited port 0 and we added the VLAN, the access VLAN. We edited port 1, we took out the default VLAN from the port and we added voice. Port 2, took out default, added user VLAN. Port 3, we took out default, added corp Wi-Fi, and port 4, took out default and added guest Wi-Fi. We also edited, as you can see lower down here, we edited the management IP of the device from 100.11/32 to 100.1/24. And then you can see we created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 VLANs. I forgot to remove the test. So it would be delete, VLANs, question mark, and we have test. So now if I do a show compare, test would completely disappear, and now we could actually commit our configuration. So I'm going to commit comment VLAN underscore configs. And again, it will do a check. It always does a check before it commits the configuration. So we just need to wait for it to do the check and commit, and then that's creating a VLAN and assigning it to ports. In our next session, what we're going to look at is creating the layer 3 interface for each VLAN and actually testing the ability to reach from the core Wi-Fi VLAN to the user VLAN, for example. So I hope you all stay tuned for our next session and have a good day.